The last final concept of file handling is context managers. This is very, very important when you're working with files. Okay, it is context managers. So what are context managers in general? Okay, I'll take a small example. Let's assume that you're opening a file with mode A or mode A or whatever mode you want. Okay, let's take a simple example. I'll just say f is equal to open, okay, of maybe I'll take an existing file only as random.txt only as usual because I've renamed just now, and I'll use mode as A as usual, lowercase a, and I'll just say f dot write, and I'll just say this is mode A. Okay. So now when I write this, I guess now everyone know that here without closing my file, my content whatever I wrote will not get updated. So if I just open my random.txt also, and if I refresh this, okay, if I refresh this, the content is not updated because I have to compulsory close my files. So compulsory have to close my file. In that case only my content will be getting updated, right? That is well known. We have seen so many examples on that, right? So the moment I refresh my file, my content got updated. Now there is a chances where developers might forget writing close. Just now we have seen we forgot writing close, and because of that you are getting an error called as permission error to delete a file or move your file, right? So in that case you can use context manager. Means when you don't want to use close, or you feel that if I'll forget and I want to use something like that such that it can automatically close, so context manager can do that. Okay, so the name says context manager, nothing but, see, context manager can also be used for multiple things in Python. It can be used for multi-threading operation also, but right now we are using for file operations. Okay, so it will maintain the context. Means open your file, do your stuff. Once your stuff is done, it will automatically close. So it will maintain that particular context. Okay, so how to use context manager means, in order to use context manager, you should use a keyword called as, we will be having a keyword called as with. Okay, we will be having a keyword called as with. So by using the with keyword, you can actually use a context manager. So let's see how can you do that. So you can simply say with open. The syntax is slightly different. You're not doing f is equal to open. You're saying with open, means you're opening with context managers, and I'm just using the same code as usual, file name comma mode. Here if you want to give this open, whatever your file you opened, if you want to give to a variable, you have to use a particular keyword called as, and we have already learned about as, right? As stands for alias. So as f. So what happens is, whenever you're opening your file, your whatever file of IO you're having, that particular object will be given to f, like a variable. Like instead of doing f is equal to open, you're doing with open as f. That's it. That's a difference. F is equal to open. Here we are opening with context manager as f. That's it. Okay, instead of f is equal to open. Next, one more important thing is context manager. How it will maintain the context? How it knows that automatically should I close the file or open the file? Because context manager is a block of code. Context manager is the block of code. So in that way, it knows whether to open the file or close the file. Let's see that. Okay. So first I'll give a colon, give a enter. Okay, give a colon, give a enter. Now I'll start writing my code. Maybe I'll just start first writing my data. I'll just say f dot write, and I'll just say this is, maybe I'll write in next line. That would be more better way. This is example of context manager. Okay, this is example of context manager. See here, I've just written a file and I've just run this. I'll go back and check it. I just refreshed. Yes, I got it. See, here I have not closed the file, but it has closed it, because here I have to give indentation and write the code. Okay, so how it is knowing that to close or open the file is, whenever your cursor, whenever your interpreter, your Python interpreter is inside this block of code, it means that the file is opened. Whenever your interpreter is outside this block of code, it is closed. Means it is opened, closed, opened, closed, open, closed. I can also show this up as a proof for you. For example, right now I'm using f.write, or I can simply say f.tell right now. In this code only, in this, if I give an indentation and just say f.tell, it tells us the position. I have to print it. Sorry, I have not printed it, so I'll just print it, and it tells us the position. You can see position is it's telling. But whereas outside the context manager, means outside the block of code, if I say f.tell, Let's see what happens. It says value error, IO operation on closed file, because already see, when you are coming out of the context manager, means when you are coming out of the indentation, it is automatically closing your file. So that is the reason you're performing some IO operation. You're trying to tell, you're asking this position on closed file, which is not possible. The same thing, if I put it inside, I would not get this error. But if I put it outside, I would get this error because it is closed. So in that way, if whatever, so how do we use context manager? Means whichever code you want to use with files, you should put inside this context manager, inside this block, inside this with block. Okay, give a colon here. The syntax is something like this, colon. So whenever you give a colon, your context manager starts, and it goes on executing these files, and the moment it is out of this indentation, out of this particular interpretation, then the file is automatically closed. That is the main idea behind context manager. Now if you want to see whether the file is closed or not, we also have a function called as attribute called as closed, so we can know that. So this will return whether the file is closed or not. So if I call it, yes, the file is not closed. So this closed will return true or false, whether file is closed or not. So if I'm just asking here f dot closed, it says false because the file is not closed. Whereas if I just print the same thing outside the context manager, like this, here I'm printing outside the context manager, it says true, the file is closed. So in this way, you can maintain the context. I mean, you can maintain whether the file is closed or not by using this without writing close function. So in that way, if you forget writing close also, if you use context manager, that will help you. Means you don't need to write close if you use context manager. That is the main idea behind your context manager. Okay, the syntax is something like this. The context manager syntax is something like this: with open and whatever thing you want to write inside open as f for file name, or as file also you can say. That's a variable name, and your code whatever you want to write in the file operations. This is how a context manager works. Okay, cool. So I would recommend to use context managers if possible in many cases. So that will be helping us to avoid the closing operations and all those things. Okay. In some cases, when you want to do a lot of other operations, maybe context manager might not work. I mean, might not help you, because for example, let us assume you want to open the file here, and later on after 20 lines or 30 lines of code, you want to use it again. I mean, you want to update it again. In that case, context manager will not help you, right? So in that case, maybe you can use some other things. Depending upon your case, depending upon use case, you can use context manager. Okay. So this is how it works, guys. I hope you're clear with this. Thank you.